So if we're going to move on into this next stage, and it requires some new MO, we're going to have to see ourselves relocated. Relocated not just as terra firmites. How you like that word? That's real close to termites. Not as terra firmites, meaning relegated or tethered to the earth. We do need to be able to stand on earth and have some practicalities. Hello, pay your bills, keep your word, things like that. Show up on time. But we're dual reality people. Jesus said that extremely clearly in John 3. I am in heaven, Nicodemus. Look at me in the eyeball. I'm talking to you, eyeball to eyeball, and I am in heaven. Jesus had learned it, and he was modeling it for us and giving us a clue. Yea, more than a clue, some revelation of what he wants for us. So I want to go to, first of all, Isaiah 2:2. This is my kind of blueprint verse, and it's just a powerful verse. And this kind of sets the stage for me about where we're located and how we want to coach ourselves into that reality so that we don't mess around on terra firma any longer than we need to, So Isaiah 2:2 and 3, which is interestingly the exact same wording, almost exact, of Micah chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. That's kind of crazy, 2 times. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. Wonder what God's saying about that. Anyway, verse 2, it says, and this is Isaiah 2:2, it shall come to pass when? In the latter days. Now, there are a lot of latter days. Jesus said he was in the latter days of that particular context, what he's talking about. And then we're in the latter days of this last age. And there'll probably be a latter days of a next stage too. So there are a lot of latter days. And I just happen to feel like we are probably in the appropriate latter days of this verse. Because it hadn't happened yet, what we're going to see. But it's, I think, happening around us. In the latter days, that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be lifted above all the hills, and all the nations shall flow to it. Verse 3, and many people shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God of Jacob. Why? So that he can teach us of his ways, that we may walk in his paths. For out of that place, out of Zion, out of the heavenly places, is where the law shall go forth, and the word of the Lord shall go forth. So let's just do a little, oops, that one might be dry. Let's try a different one. So let's try this one. Oh, look at that. This is earth. Woohoo. Isn't that glorious? And so now we have, little hills. And maybe we got 7 of them. Some people seem to think we have 7 of them. I don't know. I'm okay with that, whatever. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's terrible mountains. But you get the idea. You guys were so gracious not to laugh. And so, but in this context, in this verse, it says, and the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be raised up as the highest above all the other hills. Okay, so, so we like to think we're in the church mountain, right? And that we can exercise some authority, and that's wonderful. I think that's a great starting place. But if one hill says to the other hill, hey, you need to submit to me, how do you think that other hill is going to handle that? Like, wait a minute, we're peers here. Who put you above me, What happens if we just go ahead according to this verse? And many will say, let us go up to how are we going to make a house here? We're going to build a house. We got a door and windows. And we got, let's go up. You guys, you're having too much fun. You are laughing. You're laughing with me, right? Okay, go up to the house of the Lord. Many are going to say, do that. That's going to be the confession of many. And the nations will stream to it. Now, there's going to be something maybe, possibly, to do with literal, tangible Jerusalem and Israel. But you know how the Bible is so multi-leveled? Revelation can have so many dimensions. You think the one verse means something one day, and then next year you read it, and it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I see that? It was powerful last year, and it's powerful this year. I believe God is awakening many here in this group and across the earth to say, I got a hunger to live in the heavenly places. Many will say, let's go here, because this is where the law of the Lord will go forth. Okay, so we try to utter an edict. Let's say we're standing right here. We're a nice little buddy, nice little Christian here, and we're saying, hey, you other mountains, you need to come into the ways of the Lord, and whatever. And we got a certain amount of clout when we do that. Well, what happens if we go up here and we get the mind of Christ, and then we get to speak as an oracle of God? If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. Now that sounds kind of heady, sounds kind of like out there, and if we're not careful, we're all in a growth continuum, okay? Let's just acknowledge that. We're in a growth continuum. We start out as being emaciated with insecurities and rejections and fear of failures and all the fears that go with that. And so, but God, in his wonderful goodness, he begins to nurture us and win us. And what does perfect love do? Cast out all fear. So we may have started out, we're like, no way, God, I can't speak as an oracle, God. I just can't do that. But after God loves on us for a while, pretty soon it's like, I could do that. I'm just going to take your word at face value. That's what you want me to walk into. Not in my own strength or grasping or arrogance or anything like, just believing. Be humble. Believe. Be humble. He wants you to be an oracle. How you like that? That don't sound right, does it, to our twisted human thinking? Be humble and be a mouthpiece and oracle of God. Speak as God. That's what it says. That's the meaning of that verse. 1 John 4:17. We are as he is in this world. Be humble. Believe it. Just say, I am just like Jesus. Not Jesus when he was on the earth. That would be wonderful. But it's more than that. It's as he is. And what did John do in the book of first part of Revelation when he saw Jesus unveiled and full of glory? What did John do? John was Jesus' best friend. And when he saw Jesus as he is, fell a dead man to worship. He was like, who is this man I thought I knew? Well, that's what the Bible says about you and I. We are as he is. So you and I are wanting to learn how to begin to ascend this hill. Ascend. The Ascended Life Community. I have a little network that I'm beginning to put together. And I'm calling it ALC, short for Ascended Life Community. Learning how to live in this ascended realities and all the mode of operation that goes with it. Like, what is that? I've got to be weaned from some of my earthly thinking that is hamstringing me. Remember the mud, the thick head? I've got to get some of that cleared out. I got to just begin to believe the Bible just exactly for what it says. And then begin to say, that's me you're talking about right there. Yeah? So, this little sketch right here, one of these days I'm going to do a better one. I'm going to learn how to do that better. But this needs to be etched on our thinking so that whenever you wake up in the morning one day and you're just like, I don't feel like much. Oh, wait just a minute. Let me look at this. Oh yeah. This is where I am. Colossians 3:1. For if you have been raised, which is rhetorical, since you have been raised, that's a past tense deal, done deal. When you got saved, you got put right up there. Now, the interesting thing is, if you don't believe it, it doesn't mean this is not true. You just don't get to enjoy the benefits. You still get to muddle along. Any muddlers? Don't raise your hand, okay? Let's just go ahead and believe it and enjoy the benefits of what the Word says about us, okay? So what this means now is you and I are going to have a different language, which I'm trying to move through. Okay, we got to adopt new language. You see, whereas before we were right down here, and we were always praying plaintive prayers because I'm just little old me, and I ain't nobody. Oh, gee shucks, you know. You been farming long? And we just got to get over that. That's just robbing us of our inheritance. It really is. That was a wonderful sigh of relief right there. That was a sigh of revelation. That was a sigh of resignation. Okay, God, I get it. And so we've got to get over, and we've got to change our vocabulary. God, way up there in thou holiest, most high environment that you live in, and your throne. And so it's like, golly, who could ever approach a God that far away and that holy? I don't mean to diminish God's holiness, but that kind of holiness is not the kind of holiness that I think he wants us to understand. That's a unhealthy fear, and it's the, God with a big stick kind of perception. And so we've got to change that. The truth is then the vocabulary thing trickles down into all of our spheres or phases of life, whether it's in our conversation. Well, I'll be doing that till I die. Whoa, I just prophesied my death. I'll be doing that to my dying breath. I just prophesied my death, didn't I? See, I got to change that. And how about now our prayer for healing? Remember I said earlier, and there was a word about there's a grace for healing in the room. And so I said there's no need for begging, no need for plaintive. Jesus said in Luke, it's the Father's good pleasure. Do not fear, my little flock, for it's the Father's good pleasure to give to you. Oh, no, I don't think you want to give me that much or that, prolifically. I better beg just a little bit to show you my unworthiness. Don't look at me. And so that just is impregnated in us so far. And we've got to post a sentry, like a guard, over our thinking and our mouth. Now, we used to think of that, take every thought captive and subject it to the obedience of Christ, right? We used to think of that as don't say evil thoughts. Don't go down the dark path, and sin and whatever. And hopefully that's a done deal, and we've got that locked in. But I think more appropriately for us, it applies to words and concepts and mindsets that will defile us, literally rob us of our inheritance. So honestly, I have not prayed petition prayers for anything tangible, temporal, practical, or anything like that. My only time I pray asking prayers, almost any time, is if I don't know what his will is. And then I say, Father, what's your will? And maybe he doesn't answer me right then. Maybe this is a process thing. It might take me a few weeks or a few months even to come to terms with what his will is. But once you know, and by the way, you don't beg during that time. Listen, if I could say this, don't be disheartened by this, but it's not becoming to beg. It doesn't look good on you. It's not becoming of your relationship with your Father. He loves you way more than what you're saying or the way you're acting with your words. He loves you so much, and he's already told us what his heart is, what his thoughts is, what his what his intentions are, and that is, I've given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. But God, I need $200 for the rent on Friday. Don't you know that? Of course he knows that. Now get on his side and say, oh, see, get up here. Rather than praying from here, get up here. Get in his house. Mountain of the house of the Lord. Get in his house. Hang out here while he's, oh, wait a minute. You did say you gave me everything. That means you've got a good answer. You got a good story. It's in the making. Between now and Friday, this is going to be awesome, isn't it, Jesus? I love writing stories with you. See, how about if you pray in faith? Just like I just did then. Now you say, well, you didn't get real serious like the effectual fervent prayer of the beggar man really avails much, Sadly, intercession has, its definition was we just petition real loud. That's what I grew up in. It's just where it was. And but we've grown up, haven't we? We got better understanding now. And so intercession now is not begging anymore. Because why? We're firmly established in the mountain of the house of the Lord, getting to Father's heart and mind. And if he says, I've given you everything pertaining to life and godliness, and I know I've not just squandered myself on luxurious items beyond what the will of God was. I haven't just, licentious expenditures, taking license to spend anything I want without regard for God. I've diligently sought God. Like, God, I think this is what, and I put it through a vetting process and okay, this is what you want. But I need $200 by Friday, right, God? He said, I got you covered. Okay, God. And so anytime you think about it, you do not go to the begging posture. You're in the faith posture. It's like, Jesus, we're writing a good story, ain't we? I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I don't know. It's going to have a good outcome. I know that because you're a good God, and we've had a lot of go-rounds on this, haven't we, God? You've proved yourself so many times. Why would I ever doubt you again? And so, God, we're writing a really good story. And when I need to know, you let me know. Maybe he says it's on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know right now. Just walk with me. Just get into the faith posture. Get into the faith position. Get into the faith atmosphere. Get into faith environment. Get in here. Begin to let his mind begin to dictate our thoughts. Yeah? Yeah. It's going to just change everything that we do. Everything we say. And, I catch myself even with upgraded theology, and my rhetoric is beginning to get upgraded. And, and I'll be going along and say, wait a minute. I don't believe that, Every once in a while in prayer, I have to say, hold it, God, just strike that from the record. I don't even believe what I just prayed to you. Can we start over, God? You're a good God, and we are going to have a good day today because you got a big smile on your face. You see, you're speaking faith to yourself. You're training yourself. You're coaching yourself into what I believe is going to be an MO for the next stage that will empower us. So let's erase this and let's go to another little thing I want to